Welcome to an eye-opening story shared by a passionate parent from the 80s who stood their ground against what they believed was a harmful suggestion from a teacher to medicate their child for hyperactivity. Dive into a personal journey of conviction, familial experiences, and the long-term impact of such pivotal decisions on a child's future. This happened in the mid-80s. I was at the school talking to my child's teacher when she tells me, "Your child is hyperactive, will not sit down in class, etc., etc. You need to get them on Ritalin." Now, a little background. Before I relate what I told her, my uncle was a computer program writer, designer, repairer, debugger, way back in the 60s. He went to work at nights, making sure everything was working correctly, so the daytime workers could do their jobs. He kept moving up until just a few years ago, a couple of decades back, when he retired. His son was also hyperactive, so my cousin was put on Ritalin so he would sit still in class. I saw what that drug did to my cousin over the years. It ruined his brain, so that he couldn't think nearly as well after using it. So, that teacher made me mad. Who did she think she was to diagnose and prescribe a medication for my child? What type of medical degree did she hold that gave her the legal right to say this to me? She did not know that I already knew better than to destroy children's brains with Ritalin. But I was ready for her, based on what I saw in my own family. So I told her, "I'm not going to give my child drugs. You decided to be a teacher. Deal with it." I had reports that a whole group were playing, and they all fell down together. But she decided that my child was at fault, and paddled my child. When this was explained to me, I asked another child to please tell me what happened, and was told the same thing. The whole group were playing together, and fell down together, and no one was at fault. It was just part of how the game was played. So I told the teacher not to paddle my child anymore, because she did not get the facts straight first, and just jumped to conclusions. Honestly, she seemed very shallow and petty to me, like she didn't really learn how to deal with children before she began that job. Anyone who knows anything about children knows they are really not prepared for classroom behaviors until they are 7 or older. So a lot of patience is needed when they are younger, because children are not designed to sit down all day. They do not learn well sitting down all day every day. Children learn better when they are involved in activities that teach them. What happened later? Only a few years later, I saw my cousin, and he shook uncontrollably due to all of the medications that had been given him when he was younger. Then a few years later, only a few years ago, he died from a heart attack, barely past 50. My child is self-employed, has their own business, as a computer program designer and web designer, and is also teaching their own children to do the same now. They are homeschooling their children and teaching them things they would normally learn in college. My child is also bilingual, as are their children. My child also did not give drugs to their brilliant, hyperactive children, but realized that this extreme activity is a sign of quick mental function, which gives them the capacity to learn and do just about anything, and easily. Personally, I am very unhappy about the way my cousin was treated. Now, there have been television programs explaining and showing poor victims of drug abuse, children who have been drugged by their parents at the insistence of teachers. These children, although brilliant and gifted, have had their brains destroyed by drugs, and will never attain the level of education they were capable of before the drug abuse, because so much brain damage was done by Ritalin and other drugs. In fact, this practice has caused many children to be given multiple drugs. Sometimes the side effect of one drug is the cause of another drug being given to counteract that. This was merely something that happened in my life, something I never anticipated, but was extremely happy that I had the knowledge and understanding of the horrible detriment to children being drugged at a very young age, because of a system that begins education too early, too young, and teachers who are not adequately educated to deal with them. I did not know what profession my child would choose, but I was certain that there would be more success if they had more functioning brain cells and an undamaged brain. And I was right. Not only that, musical instruments were purchased and always available for use by the child. Through the years, they learned to play by ear. I purchased different classical compositions played by various orchestras so we could listen to them. After hearing some of these, this child would sit at the piano and just play something beautiful that no one ever heard before, composing as they played. One friend asked me once, "Are you recording this?" When I responded I wasn't, he gave a sad, dejected look and said, "Then it's all being lost." So, if the teacher tells you to give your kid drugs, you could be destroying a genius. I refused, and it was worth it. And does any teacher have the legal right to diagnose any child or order medications? And that's a wrap on today's heartfelt and thought-provoking story. Remember, the paths we choose in life, especially as parents, can have profound impacts. Thanks for tuning in, and take a moment to consider the message shared today.